Feeling helpless and hopeless are two of the most crippling emotional states that a person can be in, as it creates a sense of powerlessness. And sadly, the longer it seems like there's nothing you can do brings you to stop trying to change anything. And it's within this that is one of the biggest contributors to why anyone remains in a toxic relationship for as long as they do. Because it legitimately feels like there's no other choice. Over time, this feeling becomes normalized, but not from a context that we now see this heinous type of abuse as being okay, or think that it's the latest trend in psychological tortures, now the new normal for relationships, but rather because our brain adapts to the physical changes that take place from the abuse, and our nervous system becoming maladaptive, that we now view the world as being unsafe, which doesn't exactly do us any favors or make leaving these abusive relationships any easier. If our brain sees the rest of the world as one ginormous threat, to which most of us are, if at best, mildly aware that our brain even perceives the world as such, and without having any idea how these adaptations came to be or that they have even occurred, well, then there's no wonder you can't see your way through this, or just let go and put this never-ending nightmare behind you, so you could perhaps once again join in with the rest of the world and get some sleep without keeping one eye open, not because you're afraid of the monsters in your closet or the beast under your bed. Oh no, it is because it legitimately has physiologically altered and changed your brain in how it processes your thoughts, relays messages from the external stimulus that it receives, and recalls memories, to which is not your fault. You didn't know. But the good news is that just as it adapted and changed as a result due to the repetitive, prolonged nature of this abuse, it too can alter and adapt, not being stuck in a permanent state of survival mode. And the even better part is that most of this can happen and won't require anything else than a piece of paper, a pen or pencil, in the next few minutes of your life that it takes me to explain the ins, outs, whats, and whys. This will not only give you more clarity and understanding about what's going on with you and the overall big picture, will honestly make a drastic change to your life in a positive direction, leading to what will eventually allow you to get back a life where you can again feel at ease, instead of feeling exhausted while the rest of the world sleeps, from being haunted by the upset that no matter how many times you try to pick the pieces of yourself up from off the floor, you continuously keep getting trapped within this trauma loop that take you right back down that rabbit hole, becoming consumed by the negative beliefs that the narcissist has instilled and brainwashed you, and now feel like you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. Because in reality, you aren't stuck, but due to your brain working out of survival mode, you can't logically and reasonably decipher your way through this. But try to think of it like if you were having an issue with your car. And though most of us know that under the hood, it has an engine that requires oil for lubrication, and unless it's a Tesla, runs off of gasoline. It has a cooling system to keep the engine from overheating, etc., etc. But if your car starts running differently or makes a strange sound without having an understanding as to how each part works and how it impacts the functionality of the other parts that allow your car to run properly, 9 times out of 10, you're going to take your car to a mechanic or someone who has experience that knows the ins and outs and what's what, which doesn't make you foolish or dumb. In fact, it makes logical sense and will not only potentially save you money in the long run, but too a lot less headache and unnecessary stress, which in essence is the same exact thing is happening result of the abuse. And the most effective and efficient way to grasp what's going on is to have at least a basic concept of how the areas that are greatly impacted were and what caused them to change, and therefore will make sense as to why you are now thinking and behaving the way that you do, but more importantly, will then be able to in turn visualize and grasp how doing certain things will in turn help to correct and rewire your brain and promote healing. And I'm not talking some kind of PhD level of understanding, because, well, I don't got a PhD for one to give you a PhD explanation, and we're not talking about you needing to do brain surgery here. Just a little reprogramming, breaking the cycle of this trauma loop, because we already have enough complexity to deal with. So our goal here is to just aim for some simplicity. Well then, here we go. So to put this all in a nutshell, there are 4 major players to why these changes happen. First being your broader nervous system that activates your sympathetic nervous system, putting us into hyperarousal, aka survival mode. And our decisions become based off of instinct and our subconscious, and as such can lead to choices that seem sometimes erratic, irrational, impulsive, or contrary to our best interests, which can vary depending on which survival mode it chose for us to go in. If it believes that we can conquer this danger, then we go into fight mode. You ain't got a shot in hell, into flight mode we go, giving us the cue to hurry up along. If it feels like you're not going to win the fight, but running might not be a good idea either, freeze mode becomes activated, and when all 3 don't work, fawn mode it is, now, unwittingly, going along with whatever it is that puts you into this danger due to the fear of what could happen to you if you don't. Though these survival modes are good in the short term, in the long term become a hindrance, and in turn, their typical functions of protecting you from danger become dysfunctional, leaving you feeling constantly on edge, jittery, stressed out, and exhausted from the adrenal fatigue that gets created as a result. Second area impacting is your amygdala. Kind of behaves like a smoke alarm if your house is on fire. Its major function is to scan for threats and also connects memory to emotions. This area, as a result of the abuse, becomes more active and more sensitive, making it more likely to activate and sound off its alarms. So imagine now every time you light a single candle in your house, it would trigger off your smoke alarm. And because it's more active and sensitive to threat, you in turn become less tolerant of stress. And the littlest things now make you anxious, such as loud noises, people entering a room, or coming up behind you that you didn't notice, or seeing someone similar characteristics or remind you of the narcissist. And anytime you experience these things, causes your amygdala to trigger off its alarms. The third area is the hippocampus, and its major function is to process emotions and memories. This area of the brain becomes less effective and physically shrinks in size because the excess cortisol that gets released from your hormones due to being in high level of stress literally kills off the cells of the hippocampus, leading to memory loss and difficulty for it to be able to distinguish things that have happened from past memory versus something that is actually taking place in the present. This inefficiency is essentially where our flashbacks come from and why they feel so real, because it's being registered and processed by the hippocampus as if it is happening right now and not something that it has pulled from a past memory, sending this message off to the amygdala that re-triggers this alarm as it's under the impression that this threat is current, once again activating survival mode, causing you to become flooded with these stress hormones, causing more damage to the hippocampus, making it less effective and less efficient each time. And the more it's going to misinterpret past memories from the present. And over time is what essentially maintains our constant state survival mode. The last area that gets affected is our prefrontal cortex, which is more or less like the CEO of our brain, overseeing crucial everyday functions, how we manage keeping things organized, where most of our learning takes place, and has the ability to analyze, plan, and weigh consequences. This area of the brain gets bypassed whenever survival mode gets activated. it too begins to physically shrink in size and becomes less effective. Due to it getting bypassed is the reason that we can't think things through logically and reasonably that would help us override these danger signals that the amygdala and hippocampus keep sending out unnecessarily, making it even harder for us to get out of this trauma loop, or can't just come up with some logical, reasonable explanation that's going to help you escape this hell. But just like your brain altered due to the trauma, it too can change and alter back and allow you to heal. And the best, easiest, and most effective cost-free way to achieve this is simply through mindfulness, repetition, reading, writing exercises, and using nothing but your own two hands. But it is also going to require to be able to revisit the trauma without becoming so overwhelmed by the sensations to the point where it continuously is triggering you to go into survival mode, hence keeping you in this trauma loop. The way to accomplish this is by learning to be present and mindful when we become overwhelmed, listening to those intolerable sensations in the pit of your stomach and tightening in your chest, that we do things both consciously and subconsciously to avoid. Because, well, you've had about all you can fucking handle from these feelings, and to be honest with you, is completely understandable as to why we want to avoid them. Because experiencing everything that you endure is legitimately, in every essence and definition of the word, torture, to which will leave anyone with a good, healthy dose of apprehension towards these feelings. But as reasonable and understandable as it may feel, it not only doesn't help you heal, but it actually makes it worse, even if you don't know it yet. And crucial in order to be able to overcome and heal from this trauma is to regain a sense of self-agency and trust within ourselves, reestablishing ownership of our mind and our body, being free to know what you know and to feel what you feel without becoming overwhelmed, ashamed, or it causing you to collapse and fall back into the trauma loop, which can be achieved by doing things that reduce your stress, as well as learning to maintain a calm response to these sensations, trigger our amygdala to send off the alarms, and then writing down how they made you feel, how you worked through them, and how they truly didn't present any immediate danger. Just the very task of writing activates your prefrontal cortex and in turn clarifies to your hippocampus that in this very moment you are safe, helping it be able to more efficiently and effectively process and decipher memories from the past and the current present moment, sending the message to the amygdala that you're actually safe right now and won't trigger off the alarms, and in turn breaks the cycle and gets you out of the trauma loop. In combination with yoga, meditation, or reading to reduce your stress will reduce the levels of cortisol getting pushed out into your bloodstream, no longer causing your hippocampus to get deteriorated. And with this loop getting broken, we'll start being able to make decisions based off of logic and reason. And well, as they say, from there, the sky's the limit to your ability to continue to heal, giving yourself the chance of living the life that you were born to live and not being in fear that these people tried to put you in. Don't let them have the satisfaction of destroying you forever, because what they say does not define you, and we are all wildly and fiercely capable of doing anything we put our hearts, minds, and soul into. Find what sets your soul on fire and do it. Because a relationship should not leave you feeling helpless, hopeless, or empty. And the cost of companionship shouldn't be the price of your soul. Though it may feel like your heart has been shattered into pieces, in time will beat again. Let that beat set the tune to which you will march to as you rise from the ruins of this relationship. Dance to the beat of your own drum. Love yourself enough to be free. Fight for you. Save you. Focus on you. Fuck the narcissist.